to listen to a priest. But you guys didn't know me. I mean, you were all, told about this on Facebook, right? And did you know that you're going to listen to a celibate priest tell you about relationships? What the heck does he know? And to make it worse, I grew up in India where there's no dating. We have only arranged marriages. Your family decides whom you're going to marry. And that was the reason I became a priest. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here. And I've been doing this for several years now. I've been doing this Theology on Tap. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm the pastor at St. Paul of the Cross in Park Ridge, which is very close to the airport. And before I went there, I used to live in a very poor neighborhood called Barrington. For those of you who don't know the suburbs. One summer we had a meeting of ministers from the different churches to discuss the problem we were having in our churches. First, the Lutheran minister got up and he said, the biggest problem we have had in our church has been with the squirrels. Because they're gotten big and fat, they're running around the churchyard, the dogs are chasing them, the children are afraid of them. Some of the squirrels are running into the church, they are messing up the church. I got so mad, picked up my shotgun, wanted to shoot them. They were very quick, he said. Then the Presbyterian minister said we had the same problem. You know what we did? We trapped them, caught them, and drove them 50 miles into the country and let them loose. But by the time we got back to the church, there they were. The Catholic priest said we solved the problem. You know what we did? We trapped them, caught them, baptized them, confirmed them, and registered them as members of the parish. Now we see them only for Christmas and Easter. Now, why am I telling you this? See, this is not a tag, this is my permanent color. I grew up in India, and I grew up in this Hindu country, but going to church on Sunday was not an option. It was part of the deal. And we went to church every Sunday. And I lived in Italy, and Italian men don't go to church, as you know. They send their wives. Because they think that going to Mass on Sunday is like going to a conference. You send a delegate. In fact, many Italian men go to church only 3 times in their lifetime. When they are born, when they get married, and when they die. Or as one of my priest friends used to say, they think church is only for hatching, matching, and dispatching. Now, so in that context, to see young people like you, being part of St. Clement's, and I know St. Clement's is a great parish, and I know there's a lot of young people like you in that parish. It's a very vibrant Theology on Tap, young adult ministry. So when I was called to come and talk to you, it's a great privilege for me to be able to talk to you. And in fact, when I was doing my PhD at the University of Illinois, I was a Newman Center campus minister. So I worked with college kids, and I loved that. So even though I'm in a big parish, I like to keep up with people your age group, because I think it's a very special age, because you're getting wisdom. And yet you have made a few mistakes, just a few. And you have a chance to change the course of your life, right? So hopefully I can give you some help in that. Let us see. So I want to talk about what I call emotionally intelligent relationships. You know what is emotional intelligence? A few years ago, Dan Goleman wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence. What he said was, just IQ is not enough. People with great high IQs are not always successful. Because you need another thing called EQ. Emotional quotient. You should be able to relate to people. A lot of people don't have that skill, right? And it's even worse for you guys because, LOL, BFF. It's all, you write it on a text. You've even forgotten how to write complete sentences, right? and you're always looking at your cell phone and all that stuff, right? So in that context, I think, how do you make good relationships? And people who are successful in many other areas, if they don't get this right, life doesn't go right. You know that. There is a whole school of psychology now that is focusing on what we call subjective well-being, what they call happiness. And what have they found among many other traits that happy people have is to be able to relate to people. Their networks of relationships are very big and strong. Healthy marriages, happy marriages contribute to happy life. So it's so important. So I'm going to divide my talk into 3 or 4 parts depending. The first one is I would like to challenge some of the accepted beliefs about relationships, or what I call myths about relationship. Okay? I'm going to challenge that, but you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. All right? Okay, number 1. Love is something that happens to you. Something you fall into. Right? Almost like somebody tripped you off. I fell in love. Right? I mean, people think it is passive. Is that passive or is it active? The initial attraction, initial interest in somebody may be the first thing. Maybe it is something there, the impulse or the attraction. But in order to sustain love, you need to make a decision, deliberate decision. You have to work at it, right? I mean, when I meet my couples, I do a lot of weddings, and one of my first meetings, I tell them 4 things, and one of the things I tell them is, relationships are hard work. You know, brides get so obsessed over the wedding day. Oh my gosh. I think brides spend like 2,000 hours for that one day. You know, and that day lasts about 10 hours. From the time you go to church, by the time you're, half your guests are drunk. It's about 10 hours. And yet people spend so much time on that one day, and they don't spend even 1/10 of the time on the relationship. Do you know what I mean? So it's something active. You can start with somebody good, but if you don't work at it, it doesn't work. So it's not passive, it's active. Second, once you find your soulmate, loving will be easy. You know? There is a book that was published in the 1930s, 40s by a Swiss psychologist. His name is Erich Fromm, F-R-O-M-M. The title of the book is The Art of Loving. In the first chapter, he says, many people think the problem about love is the object of love. Once you find the right object, loving will come easy. Not true. Now, sometimes you wonder if there is a soulmate, really, one soulmate, or if you miss that, what happens to you? Sleepless in Seattle. I mean, what do you do? I missed that. So I go to the rest of my life miserable. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. But I do know that soulmates do not come to you pre-packaged. All we have to do is unwrap the package. You see? Because if you found a person and you realize that person has the potential to be your soulmate, you got to work at it and it can happen. That is, I think, and that is where the problem is. See, once you have a healthy relationship with someone, there is that initial attraction and all that. Then, yes, sometimes Hollywood and television has kind of, beefed up our expectations of what romantic relationships or marriage is supposed to do, right? And people have, especially because I think in this culture, marriage and permanent relationships are all about the individual. So what happens, because it's about the individual, we have these very high romantic expectations. Whereas in India, as I said, it's a sense of obligation. It's almost like you're taking medication. No, really. You talk to some of your Indian friends who are married off to somebody, okay? Number 3. Are you with me so far? Does this make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Number 3. The more people you date, the better you will be prepared for romantic relationships. Do you know what I mean? Many people think it's like baseball. The more pitches you face, the better batter you will be. But I think that is the theory in America, don't you think? Oh, you got to play the field. You've got to be a player. It's terrible. Huh? You know what I tell people? The more people you date, the more baggage you collect. The more people you date, the more baggage you collect. Now, as I said, I do a lot of weddings. In the recent months, I've married a couple of couples who have been dating for like 12 years, 8 years, and I tell them, you're blessed. Because you didn't have all of these relationships that messed up your head, your heart, everything. Now, I often wonder, how can your heart be broken to pieces so many times and put back together? Think about it. So, and then nowadays, dating is not dating as it used to be once upon a time. Right? Everything happens. I'm not saying that. And so, it produces a lot of difficulty for people when they break up. And I think, you have to be very careful, before you decide to be serious about, you have to. So just dating more people doesn't give you more skills, If somebody, because people think, if I make the same mistakes with different people, then I become experienced. No. It becomes, what I mean? So, some people make the same mistake with different people. Doesn't help you. So, third thing. Number 4, as long as the two of you understand and love each other, the opinions of your friends and family do not really matter. Nobody understands. We have something very special. Yes, he has been divorced by 3 women. But I understand him better than his 3 ex-wives. Really? My parents don't understand. My friends don't understand. Now I tell people, if you're dating somebody and nobody else agrees with you, you better watch out. Because who knows you better than your family? See, one of the bad things about romantic marriages is that you don't pay attention to the family. You see, the only time you involve your family when you get engaged is the hope that they will pay for the reception. But what we forget is that the person is the product of the family environment. How many people get into trouble after marriage because they didn't pay attention to the dimension? Do you know what I mean? You grew up in a family that is affectionate. I have a sister, I have 4 siblings who are married. Because, 5 siblings, I forgot. I have 5 siblings who are married, all right? My sister is a nun, I'm a priest, and I have 5 others who are married. And 4 of them have great marriages, all of them are arranged, but they are having very happy marriages. But there's one, my sister, my younger sister, she grew up in a family where she had 5 brothers, They're all very good guys, affectionate, we are very expressive and all that. And then her husband is not like that. He grew up in a home, they never showed any affection. She's frustrated. Do you know what I mean? So the family is very important. When you're dating a person, pay attention to their family and also to make sure that your own family agrees with you. Not everybody, but at least most of them and most of your best friends. Okay. Next one. Love conquers all. It is not necessary that the 2 individuals share the same faith. This is the more controversial thing. Because many people think faith is just superficial. We go to church, we do a few things, but it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that people of different faiths cannot have a good relationship. Certainly you can. But what happens with interfaith marriages is that as long as the relationship is going okay, smoothly, nicely, there's no problem. But when the relationship hits some bumps on the road, then faith becomes a problem. Do you know what I'm saying? Why? Because your faith shapes the way you look at the world. Remember that. Who are we here? What are we here for? That is a basic question. If you really believe that somebody made you out of love, you're not an accident. You just didn't show up here for no reason. God has a purpose. And you are profoundly loved by this God. And He has a mission for you. He has a plan for you. And if you believe that, and somebody you marry doesn't share that at all, their way of looking at the world, their way of making decisions, making judgments, is very different from yours. And don't think that that is not going to create conflicts. Do I make sense? I'm not saying just because somebody calls himself Catholic, it's going to, CatholicMatch.com, whatever the blessed thing is. Not necessarily you're going to meet your soulmate there. But what I'm saying is, it should be something that you both share. So, it is an additional help if both people share the faith. And both of you also are more or less at the same level. It helps, because marriage already faces so many stresses and strains. And you don't want to add one more. Do you follow? Okay. Oh, this one. Ending up alone is the worst thing in the world. Ooh, really? Look at me. I tell people, when I was living in Barrington, we had a confirmation for our kids in sophomore year of high school. So I used to visit these different groups because they would meet in different homes. And I remember meeting one of the groups, and this beautiful young sophomore, looked at me and said, "Father Britto, I feel so bad for you." I said, "Why?" "Because you can't get married." I said, "That's okay. I'm a happy person. Look at me. Look at me." She said, "Yeah, Father, I know. But you're all alone." And then she said, "Father, can you have a girlfriend?" I said, "I'll have to ask my bishop about that." See, because in America, there is this accepted belief that if you don't have a date on Friday, Friday night, something wrong with you. Right? Because it's not a question of just being with anybody, being with the right person. The Italians have a proverb. They say, "Meglio essere sola di essere mal accompagnata." That means, it's better to be alone than to be badly accompanied. Do you know what I mean? Just reflect on your own experience. When the relationship is going well, everything is great. But when that sucks, everything sucks. He's recording, that's okay. Alright. Do you know what I mean? It's true, isn't it? So it is a question of not just being with anybody. So it's a very important thing. They say, happy wife, happy life. I tell them, no wife, happier life. Okay. Another myth. Even if the relationship is bad right now, it'll get better when we get married. No way. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people have this very wrong idea. I tell them, look, especially I'm talking about women, because I tell them, if he doesn't treat you well when he's dating you, don't expect him to treat you better when you are married. It's going to get worse. But if he treats you well now, he probably will treat you better in marriage. It's very important. People forget, because this whole idea things will change. Men and women are different. The man, when he gets married, he looks at the bride and he says, "Oh, she's so beautiful, she's so perfect. I hope she will not change." But the woman looks at the guy, she says, "Oh, he's so wonderful, I love him. But there are a couple of things I hope will change." But you know what happens? Men never change. Women always change. So you got to be aware of that. That is the issue. Okay. Then, this one is controversial. You must live with somebody before you get married to them. I know. Because in college it has become no longer dating, hooking up, friends with benefits. Right? Is that your generation? I don't know. Dating has changed in this country. You remember the gentleman who would come to the house, pick up the lady and take her and bring her home before 11? No? It was the 1920s. That was your grandparents probably. You know what I mean? It was different. Unfortunately, things have changed so much. I have only one brother who lives here in America. He lives in Green Bay. Unfortunately, he's a Packer fan. Yeah, the better team, whatever. Anyway, the Bears fans didn't protest because they know. And one day, he has 2 children. He has a daughter and a son. I have been with them from the time they were born. And about 3-4 months ago, I was at home at dinner with them. Out of the blue, my niece looks at all of us and says, I won't marry anybody until I live with them for 6 months. I said, oh my gosh, where did I make a mistake? Now, why am I saying this? Because I think, when people live together, it's not, you're not living like Mary and Joseph, You know what I mean? You see? Now, why do women agree to live with a guy? Because they hope he will make a commitment. That's one of the reasons women, if only I would do this, maybe he will. But is that sure? No. Do you know that 50% of people who live together never reach the altar? And if you live together with somebody, especially for the woman, the probability of divorce increases unless you marry that person. If you lived with the person that you eventually marry, the effects are less. But otherwise, there is a problem. You see? And I know, when I was in Champaign, I used to go to the same lady for a haircut, and she was down the street on 6th Street, near Green. And I would go there for my haircut. And when usually you go to the salon to get a haircut, usually you tell your problems to the barber, right? But she knew I was the priest. She would tell me about all her problems. She would tell me about her boyfriends and what happened. I remember she telling me, said, Britto, I moved from California. I lived with this guy for 9 years hoping that he will make a commitment. He didn't. Hey, you got the milk. Sorry, is that it's not PC? I'm sorry. I'm not Donald Trump, my hair is not like that. Okay. You know what I mean? See, it's something to think about. And then what happens is, because people share everything, when they break up, it's almost like a divorce. And I tell people, the deeper the physical intimacy, the more intense the pain of breakup. Think about that. And I do believe that, being with many people does not help for you to, forge a permanent relationship later on. Because imagine, if somebody has played the field before marriage, just because you said your vows in front of the altar, suddenly you become very good, and you don't have an itch afterwards. Then you get something called Ashley Madison. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you have never said no before, how do you learn to say no after? You think there are no temptations after getting married? There are, believe me. So, I know the culture has almost accepted this as okay, but I don't think it is helpful. It's not because one day the Pope got up on the wrong side of the bed and said, you Catholics are not going to have fun anymore, I'm going to, mess up your life or something. No. The way God wired us, you see, He wired us for intimacy, and those things, I don't think they go contrary to this wiring that God has done for us. Something to think about, I'm not here to say, no, I'm just saying, think about it. Alright, the last one, romance is different from all our other relationships. It is in a class by itself. Now, what is romance? Romance is friendship plus passion. Passion comes automatic, believe me. It's the friendship that's the problem. So if you want to be prepared for romance, you need to learn to be a good friend, a good brother or sister, a good son or daughter. For me, the first school of love is the family. Because that is where we learn to fight, negotiate, express love, forgive, make up, fight, say some horrible things, and still feel we are part of the family. Because they can't kick us out. Do you know what I mean? See, God purposely gave us a family. Because your friends, if you fight with them 3 times, they won't be friends anymore. Except on Facebook. I've got 840 friends and I don't know who they are. You know what I mean? So those are the myths. Does it make sense so far? God, this place is warm. Okay. So you're all right so far? Does it make sense? All right. Okay. So we'll have some time for. Oh boy, it's already 8 o'clock. You know, when you're a priest, you have a lot of mileage in the mouth, and we keep talking. When a priest talks, you know, you automatically fall asleep. So anybody, I hope you're not falling asleep. Because there was a priest once was talking, and there was a guy in the first pew who was falling asleep. In fact, he was snoring, and the priest was very upset, and he called one of the ushers, said, "Hey, wake him up." The usher said, "No, Father." He said, "What do you mean, no, Father?" He said, "Father, it's not fair." He said, "What do you mean not fair?" He said, "Father, you put him to sleep, you wake him up." All right. So that is the first thing I wanted to say about the beliefs that people accept as true. I don't know if it is really true. All right. Second, I want to give you 2 theories on romantic relationships. One is by a psychologist from Harvard. His name is Robert Sternberg. Thank you. And the other is from a great psychologist who is one of the best scholars of relationships and marriage. His name is John Gottman. He has written some great books. So I'll give you 2 theories about romantic relationships. Number one by Robert Sternberg. Robert Sternberg would say that romantic love consists of 3 ingredients. They are intimacy, commitment, passion. 3 things. First is intimacy. What is intimacy? Intimacy is the willingness to communicate at more than the superficial level. It is the readiness to disclose yourself and also the willingness to receive the self-disclosure of the other. It is the level of transparency that exists in a relationship. Okay? It is the degree of feeling at home with another person. That is intimacy. Second, commitment. Commitment is the determination that this relationship is so important that you are willing to do what it takes to make it work for the long term, and almost to the exclusion of all other relationships. So you are willing to make sacrifices, make the effort in order to make this work. So that is important. So this has to be the most important relationship for you, and so you will do whatever it takes to make it work. So for example, if a boyfriend calls his girlfriend and says, "Oh darling, I need to see you, I want to see you, but I cannot do that because it is raining," it doesn't work. Do you know what I'm saying? If the person is not, you remember there was a book that came out some years ago, I think it was like, the title was, "He's Not That Much Into You" or something. It's very important. You know, it's all about how much effort the other person makes. If they don't, then forget it. Alright? And third is passion. What is the passion? Passion is the fire, the spark in the relationship. It is a sense of anticipation you feel when you know you're going to be with this person. It's a sense of loss you feel when you're away from the person. The erotic element is part of it, but not the whole of it. And it is the capacity to dream dreams together. Now, all the 3. Now, what happens is that, you know, even, I think, on college campuses and some other places where the only thing that exists sometimes is only passion. People don't even know the person. Okay? Friendship is commitment and intimacy. So your friend really knows you, and they will be willing to wake up and bail you out of the prison at 4 o'clock in the morning. That is a friend. Do you know what I mean? So there is commitment and intimacy. But romance is commitment, intimacy, and passion. All the 3. Sometimes when you talk about friends with benefits, it's intimacy and passion, no commitment. It's to have a real consummate relationship, you need all the 3. Intimacy, commitment, and passion. The second theory is from is from, I said John Gottman. Now, John Gottman, he used to be a professor at the University of Illinois, but then he moved to Seattle. He runs what is called the Love Lab. Now, you guys know the Love Shack, but this is the Love Lab. All right? He brings couples in to his lab and he studies them. He hooks them up to all sorts of machines and measures their physiological responses and asks them to talk about their relationship. And in a matter of, few minutes, he can analyze the video and correlate it with all the physiological responses, and he can predict almost with 92% accuracy whether a relationship will succeed or fail. I mean, amazing. He has developed into a science. All right? He has written a book called Relationship Cure. C-U-R-E, Relationship Cure. He gives a theory called Theory of BIDS, B-I-D-S. He says all relationships, whether they are work relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships, they all begin like this. He says we send out bids to the other person for their affirmation, attention, and affection. How do they respond to the bid we send out? They can respond in one of three ways. They can respond positively, they give us what we ask. They can respond negatively, they can reject our bid. Or they can respond neutrally by ignoring our bid. But if they respond positively, you make a connection. And the more connections you make, the possibility of a bond. The stronger the bond, the possibility of a relationship. Let me give you a silly example. Let us say it was the day after the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup for the second time in 3 years, all right? It's a great day for all of us, right? Anyway, and you go to work the next day, and about 10 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock, you go to the water fountain to get a drink. And as you go there, you see this new employee you have never seen before. And you're a friendly person, so you start a conversation like, hey, how about those Hawks, huh? How does this person respond? This person says, they were amazing. Actually, I am from Florida. I'm a Lightning fan. I got to tell you, they were great. They deserve to win. You say, hey, this person is nice. So what happens later in the day, you are on the elevator, and you see this person running to catch the elevator. What do? You keep it open. They get in, you smile, you talk to them. Later in the week, there is an office party, and you see this person, you probably go up to them, you talk. This could be the beginning of a friendship. Am I right? Now let us change the scenario. You say, hey, how about those Hawks? This person, don't talk to me. I'm a Lightning fan. I hate their guts. So what happens? You are on the elevator and you see this person running to catch the elevator. You close the door. And at the office party, you won't bother with the person. Am I right? And it's even worse when they ignore you. You say, hey, how about those Hawks? Hey, no coffee? Where's coffee? No coffee? As if you said nothing about the Hawks, right? So what John Gottman says relationships are created not in those extraordinary 4th of July fireworks moments, but in the everyday humdrum routine moments. How does the other person respond to you in your ordinary bits? Do you know? When they take you on a romantic date, oh, that's easy to pay attention to you. But how do they pay attention to you at home or in a very casual context? How do they do that? Both of you are sitting and watching television, and the remote control is on the other side, and you say, hey, honey, can you get me the remote? Why don't you get up and get it yourself? Oh, yeah, I know. Do you know what I mean? The little ways that people respond to you. Now, a husband and wife are shopping together, and the husband says, honey, should I get a box of honey bunches of oats? And she says, oh, you know, we eat cereal every day. Get whatever, no problem. That's a good response. Instead she says, what do you think, I'm your mother? Why couldn't you check the pantry before we came to shop? It's a bad response. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's the way the other person reacts to your ordinary bits. That's one. Number two, it's better to fight than to be ignored. Women say this all the time. In fact, when couples begin to ignore each other, it's a bad sign. Usually, before people divorce, that's how they live. They pretend as if the other person doesn't exist. Alright? And then, what he also says is that the difference between healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships is how much of the other person's bids this person rejects or ignores. For example, in healthy marriages, a man rejects or ignores less than 40% of his wife's bids, and the woman less than 30% of her husband's bids. But in an unhealthy marriage, a man rejects or ignores more than 60% of his wife's bids, and she ignores or rejects more than 50% of his bids. And he gives a very telling statistic. He says, in a healthy marriage, in 10 minutes of dinner conversation, a couple makes 100 positive exchanges. They are connecting every 6 seconds. It's almost like, they are in tune with each other. That is the healthiest marriage. And that's why, when you fall in love with somebody, what happens? You can't even keep your hands off of each other. They tell you get a room. No, why? Because you're so taken up with this person, the rest of the world doesn't exist. Whereas when people fall out of love, they just don't want to be bothered with the other. So, these are two theories about relationships, alright? Okay, I'm going to give a little break, is that good? Or should I continue the whole blessed thing?
Are you done with your talk? You want Q&A? Or?
No, we'll do Q&A. Oh, so we give a break and then come back for Q&A.
Sure, we can do that.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Are you okay still?
Yes. Yeah.
You're okay to listen to me still? Alright, you don't want to throw me out yet. Alright. Alright, I'd like to break the monotony. I want to read to you what is called church bulletin bloopers. Alright? These are announcements that people published in church bulletins. You'll be surprised what funny things they published. Okay, here I go. Don't let worry kill you, let the church help. Thursday night potluck supper, prayer and medication to follow. Remember in your prayers the many who are sick of our church and community. For those of you who have children and didn't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. The rosebud on the altar this morning is to announce the birth of David Allen Belzer, the son of Reverend and Mrs. Julius Belzer. This afternoon there will be a meeting in the south and north ends of the church. Children will be baptized at both ends. Tuesday at 4 p.m. there will be an ice cream social. All ladies giving milk will please come early. Wednesday the ladies' liturgy will meet. Mrs. Johnson will sing, "Put me in my little bed," accompanied by the pastor. Thursday at 5 p.m. there will be a meeting of the Little Mothers Club. All ladies wishing to be little mothers will meet with the pastor in his study. This is an announcement. I'm not making this up. This being Easter Sunday, we'll ask Mrs. Lewis to come forward and lay an egg on the altar. A missionary from Africa will be speaking tonight at Calvary Memorial Church in Racine. Come tonight and hear Bertha Belch all the way from Africa. Our youth basketball team is back in action Wednesday at 8 p.m. in the gym. Come out and watch us kill Christ the King. Sang, "I will not pass this way again," giving obvious pleasure to the congregation. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house. Don't forget your husbands. The sermon this morning, Jesus walks on water. Sermon tonight, looking for Jesus. Weight churches will meet at 7 p.m. at the First Presbyterian Church. Please use large double doors at the side entrance. And the last one, at the evening service tonight, sermon topic will be what is hell. Come early and listen to our choir practice. Church is boring. Church is not boring. Church is fun. Now, if I told you some things that, even what I heard in confession, I laugh in church. All right, there was Father O'Malley who was hearing confession in Dublin. All right, and then this lady comes. This lady always, whenever she came, Father would roll his eyes inside the confession because she couldn't see it. And she would go on and on. She would actually confess her husband's sins. So she went on and on and on. At the end she said, "Oh, Father, thank you, thank you." She said, Father said, "Why are you thanking me?" He said, "Father, when I came here, I had a terrible headache. Now that I made my confession, my headache is gone." And Father said, "Your headache is not gone. I got it." So anyhow, okay, the next part of my talk is, how do you evaluate a relationship? Do you know what I mean? Let us say you are in a relationship. You want to know whether this has long-term potential or not. Alright? Whether it is good or bad. Whatever. Alright? Now, this is coming from a celibate. I'm doing this because I've been working with couples for so long. Alright? I've been a priest for 30 years. Do I look that old? I was born when I was very young. Okay? Alright. So here are some of the questions you got to ask yourself. Number one, does the relationship bring out the best in me or the worst in me? Does it make me a better person? Does it help me to live out my potential? To live up to my greatest ideals and goals? Or does it persuade me to compromise myself? To give up my dreams and my values? See, if your relationship is making you less than what you're supposed to be, and you have to ask yourself, is this a good relationship? You turn into somebody else in the relationship. That's not a good thing. You know when it is a good relationship, it makes you a better person, not a worse person. Second, am I authentically happy when I am with this person most of the time? Or am I miserable? There are some couples who are fighting all the time when they are together. But once they are apart, they long for each other. They miss each other. Right? When they are together, they are fighting. They are not happy. But when they are away from each other, "Oh, I miss you." Really? That's a bad sign. If you're not really happy in a relationship, then something is telling you it's not a good place to be. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially you women should listen to your guts. I have seen when women they override their guts, they pay for it afterwards. See, God favors the women. I think God is feminine, I think. No, because women are given all sorts of special things. Men, we have to figure it out. We have to reason, we have to, But as women, you have that gut instinct. Listen to it, your heart. And you don't, because when a woman gets married, and I have had couples that I have married. And my best friend, she and I, we have been friends for 23 years. I did a wedding, I'm the godfather of her 2 boys. And, at the time of the wedding, she had some questions. She said, "I told you, but you should have hit me on the head and say, I have serious questions." I thought it was like cold feet or something. Listen to your guts. If you're not happy, something is telling you, don't pursue it. Am I making sense? Number 3, do I feel uniquely loved by the other? Uniquely. Am I appreciated, valued, treasured, cherished, and considered precious in the eyes of the other? When I prepare couples for marriage, I tell them, as a married person, you have 3 rights. The first right you have is to expect your spouse to love you uniquely as they love nobody or nothing else. You have to be number 1. See, no other relationship this exists. Do you know what I mean? In your family, if you are one of 3 children, you cannot tell your parents, I have to be number one. Doesn't work. You can't tell your siblings, I have to be number one. Even your best friend, they may give it to you as a gift, but you can't demand it. But in marriage, that is your right. And I tell my couples, I tell the guy especially, I say, look, even Mel Gibson couldn't find out what women want, I'll tell you. If you can make her feel that she's absolutely number one in your life, she'll put up with any crap. It's true. She has to feel that. And when women don't feel that, that relationship doesn't work. She gets miserable. That's what I'm talking about. You need to feel that you are treasured, you are special, you are. And if somebody doesn't treat you that way, don't stick with that relationship. It's not good for you. Eventually you'll regret it. You think you can make it work. No. Don't settle. Always. It's very important. Number 3. Number 4. Is there a sense of stability in the relationships? Now there are couples that are together and they break up. They're together, they break up. They can't make up their mind. See, if you cannot, there's something wrong here. Why do you break up so many times? Something is telling you this is not working. See, good relationships should be somewhat easy. I'm not saying you don't have to put the work. It shouldn't feel like a big struggle. Do I make sense? It shouldn't be a struggle. If you feel that you're trying to hold a house of cards together when the fan is blowing, that's not a good sign. So it should feel comfortable. There should be a sense of serenity, a certain amount of peace in the relationship. If it is always stormy, tumultuous, that's not a good sign. So far, do you agree with these criteria? Yeah. Number 5. Oh, this is very important. Do you like the other person? I love him. I don't know if I like him. Do you find the jokes of the other person funny? Or every time you roll your eyes? Very important. Do you enjoy spending time with the other person? Or do you say, oh, I can't be. Do you know? Do you enjoy being? Do you love being with them, spending time together? Do you have fun together? That word fun, of course, you can put a lot of meaning to that. But you should have a good time with this person. If you don't, then it becomes a burden. If it becomes heavy, that's a bad sign. Then, number 6. Does the other person carry heavy emotional baggage, serious emotional or psychological problems that have not been totally resolved or addressed? Suppose the person has serious, addictions or whatever. You think you're going to be the savior. Be careful. Oh, his 3 ex-wives don't know. I will make him good. I will reform him. The savior syndrome doesn't work. I'm not saying all of us have problems. Believe me, I'm not saying that you go around looking for like a presidential candidate who's supposed to drop from the sky. And certainly people running for political elections are not any kind of saint, by no means. Anyway, but sometimes, it's not that you don't have problems. Are you aware of the problems? Am I addressing the problems? Am I trying to make myself a better person? If not, that baggage is going to eventually destroy the relationship. So you got to think about that. Number 7. Does this person trust you completely? Do they trust you completely? Or you have to defend yourself all the time? See, because eventually if you get married to a person, the core of the relationship is trust, as you know. So that has to be built. So if that person doesn't trust you, and then on the vice versa, do you feel comfortable trusting that person? Or do you always have some nagging doubt? Something is holding you back? That's a bad sign. You want to be able to trust that person completely, and they should be able to trust you completely. And the last thing, do you share common vision about life, common values, common principles? Are you both on the same page as to how you see life, the world, the meaning of life? and the ultimate questions. Because if you're going to be so far apart on these issues, it is certainly going to create problems and tensions along the way. So, those are some questions. Now, by the way, if any of you want to, I think you have my email address. It's basically my name. My name, as you know, is, if you take Burrito and drop the U, that is my name. Okay, Burrito. Or take the water purifier Brita, change it to Britto. Britto Berchmans @gmail.com. Or if you go to my parish website, St. Paul of the Cross Church in Park Ridge, you can. I will send you some handout if you want, okay? If you want these questions to think about, I can send them to you. So, okay. We're going to take a break, so I'll just...
Sure.
I'll just want to tell you one little story. You know, there used to be a TV show called Newlyweds Game. Those of you, you guys wouldn't know because it was many years ago. And what they would do is they would bring the bride and the young couple and ask them the same question. They would separate them to see whether they give the same answer. So they were playing this game in a parish in New Jersey with senior citizens. And of course this gentleman was far away, and they asked the lady, can you tell us when was the last time your husband said to you, I love you? The lady said, 45 years ago when we got married. What? You never said that again? She said, no. That's very strange. So they brought the guy over and said, when was the last time you said to your wife, I love you? He said, 45 years ago when we got married. You never said that again? He said, no. How come? He said, well, on the day we got married, I looked into her eyes with all the love in my heart, and I said, darling, I love you with all my heart. And then I said, if anything changes, I'll let you know. It doesn't work that way. Okay? All right, let's take a little break. Yes?
What would you say like a good response is when you have like a friend who is moving in with their boyfriend or something? This is kind of, I guess it's tough because, yeah, it's just tough. What to say to that?
It all depends on how deep a relationship you have with this person. You know, we don't want to come across as being in any way judgmental or telling them, you're a terrible person. No, I mean, people do things for many different motivations. And it's difficult to know why and whatever. Believe me, 90% or more of the couples that I marry in the church, they are living together. And once upon a time, they would at least hide it. When we fill out the paperwork, they will give their comment. The guy will write their own home address. She will write her parents' address. Now they put the same thing. So it's different, So, I mean, my point is only that, you don't want to hurt yourself. Because I think your generation has the same aspiration just like the other generations. You want to have a good family life, you want to have a good relationship, you want to raise good children. That is your long-term goal. But then in the short term, you can hurt yourself by doing things that go contrary to your real aspirations. And I think this is one of those things. So, it all depends. If you're really a good friend and you feel totally comfortable talking about anything, but in a way that is not necessarily coming across as I'm superior to you. No. It's out of real concern. I mean, I think the Pope is here, and that is what you see in this man, is that genuine compassion. Now, today he was talking about the tenderness of God. That is what is beautiful. God is like that. He does not beat us on the head and tell us, better do this, otherwise I'll strike you down. He's very gentle. We keep making mistakes. This God is so patient and so loving. So that's what okay.
So I had a question.
Yes.
It's more of a request. I know that you said that we were interested in the things that we were going through in terms of the lists. Is it possible that you could forward it to the administrator?
Oh, yeah,
the administrator could post it on Facebook?
Okay. The whole world will see. I will do that. Thank you. That's very easy. Yeah, the electronic communication, your generation. It's unbelievable. Really, it's unbelievable. So, anything else? It's always
What is your best advice you would give young couples in relationships as they progress forward, past the next step of their journey?
it's difficult to say best relation. Just like when people ask me, what is your best Indian dish? You know, I can eat everything. I love. Look at my size. You know. But I would say, learn to respect each other, because I think the respect is the first step in love. Because when respect is missing, everything else is missing. Then I would say how much you care about each other. Now, there's one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of Jacob. You know, Jacob was the grandson of Abraham. He had 12 sons, and one of them had this very loud sports coat with Donny Osmond. It's called Joseph. You remember that? So Jacob, when he is ready to get married, he goes to his uncle, that is his mother's brother, Laban, and he wants to marry his first cousin, because that's what they did in those days. But he had his eyes on the younger cousin, and her name was Rachel. And he goes to his uncle and says, "Can I marry your daughter?" And the uncle says, "Go into the fields and take care of my sheep for 7 years." So he works with sheep for 7 years. And then he comes back, and then he says, "Can I marry Rachel?" The dad says, No. The older daughter must be married first. So you have to marry Leah first. Then he has to go back to work another 7 years with sheep before he marries the woman he really loves. And so imagine that Jacob is sitting at one of the bars on Clark Street, all right, with a bunch of his buddies, and he says, "Hey guys, I really love this girl, man. You know, I want to marry her. I asked her dad for a hand in marriage." You know what the dad said? "I got to work with sheep for 14 years. What do you guys think? What do you think his buddies will say? Are you nuts? No girl is working with sheep for 14 years. Right? Look at this bar. You know, it's filled with beautiful women. Now look at that one there, okay? She's only 3 months with sheep. Marry her." Now what I tell people is that this is what he called romantic love. Romantic love is foolish love. It's the way God loves. Not calculating. See, when I came to America 30 years ago, I discovered that you can buy the same thing for $5 or $50. It depends where you buy it and when you buy it. And the major activity that Americans do, especially American women, is called shopping. They work very hard to make money to go shopping. They go look for special days called sales. They take special things with them called coupons. And they never go alone. They take all their friends and family. They make a day of it. They go to lunch. And then at the end of the day, they come home, open up the packages, show everybody what they found. It's like the end of a hunt. And then for the next few weeks, you know, they work hard to pay the credit card bills, and they worry about the money they spent, right? It's not only because of the amount of time they spend, it's the major activity. It's also because of the way they begin to think. They begin to think, what is it? Did I get a good deal? Did I do enough comparative shopping? Could I have upgraded to a better product? And you think like that in all other areas of your life. But there are 2 areas in which you cannot think like that. One is faith, where God calls the shots. The other is love. See, in love, when you fall in love with somebody, you cannot say, did I do enough comparative shopping? Could I have upgraded to a better model? With better options? No. See, when couples say to each other, "I did this for you, what did you do for me?" There's already trouble. So you cannot keep score, you cannot keep track of whatever. It's all about the other. And that is the kind of love that you should work towards. If that makes sense. And I'll tell you one story. This story I've told like 300 times. This happened to me when I was in Barrington 15 years ago. I was called to the nursing home because a woman had died, and they wanted me to come and say some prayers. So I ran over there, and I entered the room. There were a few people gathered, and there was a lady laid out on a bed, and I started to say my prayers. And I was saying my prayers, I was looking at the lady. She was in her mid-80s. She had lost all the hair on her head. Her skin had a strange color. She had lost a lot of weight. And I said to myself, poor thing, She probably had cancer, she had chemo, she does not look good. This is what I was thinking. And I finished my prayers and I was walking away. This elderly gentleman came up to me. He took my hand and he said, Father, thank you for coming. I'm the husband. And then he said, Father, she's the only one I ever loved. I met her a few days after I left the service in World War II, and we've been together since. And then he said, Father, look at her. She's as beautiful today as she was the first day I saw her. He saw some beauty in her I could not see. And that's the kind of marriage you want. Do you know what I'm saying? You look at your spouse and you see they are still beautiful. Hopefully, over the years, that is what will grow. Forget about all these things you get in, the Notebook and all these movies. You come out crying, Forget about all that. This is the real thing. Every day, getting up in the morning, looking at the other person saying, I thank God that you are here with me. We'll grow old together. That's it. So that's all I can say. Okay. Anything else? Yes?
Any advice to those shoppers and coupon salespeople?
Okay, I would say put yourself out there, because you could be a diamond in the rough, but nobody knows. They have to know you, right? See, you got to meet people. So find the right place to meet. See, once upon a time, there was a guy called Chuck Woolery. He used to do a show called Love Connection. And I wanted to do the Catholic Love Connection. No, really. I really want to do that. To match up good people. At least one good thing about arranged marriages, when you reach a certain age, whether you like it or not, you'll be hitched to somebody. I come across so many wonderful people here, especially women. Good people. Why don't they find the right person? Something wrong with the system. Good people fall through the cracks sometimes. So I would say, find a way. And I'm telling you, I've done more and more weddings. They have met each other online. It's not like online is bad anymore. Do you follow? I've done several weddings of good couples that met each other online. So be choosy. Be suspicious of the profiles. But eventually, hopefully you will find a person. So first thing is to put yourself out there. And you need to take some risks. You will get hurt sometimes. Shouldn't give up. Shouldn't give up. Because this is a very important thing. Life is short. I just buried a woman who is, 2 days ago. Was it 2 days or yesterday? What is yesterday? Yesterday was Tuesday, right? Yeah. No, Monday. At a funeral of a 41-year-old woman. Cancer. Oh my gosh. Breaks my heart. 3 little children. Life is short. So you want to make sure. Put yourself out there. Don't give up. Don't lose heart. And keep praying and don't settle. Don't make a schedule for yourself, especially women. By this age I should do this. No. God will do His own thing. And keep your eyes and ears open. And don't have already all the specifications. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes people have already women and even Jesus couldn't fit that sometimes. I got to tell you a story about, it seems there was a shopping center for husbands where women could go and shop for husbands. And there were two, it was like laid out on different floors of the same building, like the old Marshall Fields on State Street. And there were 2 rules. Rule number 1, as you went to a higher floor, the men had better attributes. And rule number 2, if you went to one floor, you couldn't go back to the previous floor to pick up somebody you saw earlier. So a group of women go shopping. So they go there. The first floor says, here the men are good looking and have good jobs. The women say, hey, that's good. No, let's go to the second floor. So they go to the second floor. Says, here the men are good looking, have great jobs and love kids. Ooh, yeah, this is good. No. Let's go to the third floor. So they go to the third floor. Here the men are good looking, have great jobs, love kids, and help with housework. Ooh, Can you ask for anything more? No. Let's go to the 4th floor. They go to the 4th floor. Here the men are good looking, have great jobs, love kids, help with housework, and also cry during movies. Oh, but the women say, no. Let's go to the next floor. They go to the next floor and the sign says, this floor is to prove it is impossible to please women. Please leave the building. Okay? So just think about your list, Let it not be too unrealistic to expect. Do you follow? Yeah, a woman went to social services somewhere in London and she said, I'm looking for a husband. And they said, what are the specifications? And I said, well, he should be entertaining, he should talk when I want him to, and he should be quiet when I don't want him to talk. He should have, and all that. And the guy said, well, what you need is not a husband, what you need is a television. So those are some things I would suggest, and if you get hurt because, but then if it is a bad relationship, get out of it soon. Do you know what I mean? See, that is where also another thing, when there is sexual intimacy in a relationship, it gets confusing. People stay in a bad relationship because of this thing. The sexual intimacy is there. They cannot get out. It's like a ball and chain. It holds you there. And it completely clouds your vision. So if you know it's a bad relationship, run. Don't hesitate. It's a tough thing to do, I know, but you got to do it. Because especially, as you say, you want time to, reach whatever dreams or goals you have. So that's what I would suggest. Anyway, I have also the other story about men going to shop for wives, but I can't say that's on. I don't want to record that.
No, return.
Oh, you put it on again.
After your joke, you're fine. No worries.
I don't want to get into trouble with my All right. Any other questions? Or any other comments? Did this all make sense? Does it help? Yes.
I have a question just about, so I'm a newlywed, and just wondering what you would say to a couple that just got married, as time goes on and obviously life changes, like any advice that you have for someone in that stage?
Okay. As I said, first of all, it is hard work. See, because, you see, on the day you got married, the priest or whoever celebrated the wedding said, today you are husband and wife, but you're learning to grow into that. Just like when the bishop put his hand on my head and made me a priest, I had to grow into that. So every day you have to make that deliberate decision to build that marriage. That is one thing. So that has to be intentional. And the second thing is to keep the focus on each other. What happens is life gets in the way. See, on the day of the wedding, every couple is so generous and so full of love. They'll say, whatever it takes, I will do. I will go to the ends of the earth for you. They do that. But then life gets in the way, your ego gets in the way, and we forget the generosity with which we said the vows. That is why I tell my couples, if you made the video, for the wedding, after you made all your guests watch it a couple of times, then what you should do on the day of your anniversary to watch it again and renew your vows every year, to remind each other and to put God in the center. See, I'm convinced that you can't make a marriage work without your faith. Why will I say that? 3 essential ingredients to a good marriage do not come to us naturally. For example, by nature we are selfish. Would you agree? We put ourselves first. But marriage is about forgetting yourself, putting the other person first. And does not come to us naturally. And our society doesn't teach us that. Our society says, oh, you like this, you do it, you deserve this. Do you know what I mean? I was just watching, tennis or something, and Korean Air, it's all about you. It's all about you. That is our society. And also self-gratification, self-indulgence, do everything that you want and you like, you deserve. That's just contrary to what marriage requires. And so who teaches you? Your faith. Paul, quoting Jesus, will say, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And John's Gospel will say about Jesus, there is no greater love than this, than for someone to lay down their life for their friend. You have married your best friend, so you want to lay down your life for the other. Second, by nature we are proud. What is the biggest difficulty in relationships? It's ego. Would you agree? It's the ego. I jokingly say people get married so that they don't have to fight with strangers. It's true. People have... I tell people, a marriage makes it or breaks because of the way they deal with conflict. That is where we introduce all the bad stuff. Now, who teaches you to be humble? Our society. One of the things I hate to come to drive to the city is because the way everybody drives like nuts. Get out of my way, I deserve to go ahead of you. Why? Are you the big shot? But everybody thinks, And of course, it's like, our social media has become like the bigger version of the bumper sticker. Oh, my child is an honest student. I'm the parent of an honest student. Big deal, It's all about the ego, right? There was a woman who went to a flea market and she found this exotic looking lamp. And so she brought it home and she started polishing it. A genie came out and the genie said, ma'am, I'll give you 3 wishes, whatever they are. And the woman said, oh, all my wishes are about my husband. Okay, number 1, I want my husband to have eyes only for me. Number 2, I want him to look at me first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. Okay. Number 3, I want him to look at me with full attention and great love every 15 minutes. And I want him to take me with him wherever he goes. And the genie said, done. The woman turned into an iPhone 6. We are so self-absorbed, you know what I mean? And the ego gets in the way. If you really want to have a good marriage, you have to be humble. Who teaches that? Look at the Lord. He washed the feet of his disciples. And that for me is the image for marriage. And the third thing, forgiveness. Forgiveness does not come naturally, right? And you need a lot of forgiveness in marriage. Especially men have to say so many times, I'm sorry, I'm stupid, please forgive me. You need a lot of forgiveness in marriage, right? Now, look at the world. The world does not know how to forgive. That's why we are in this mess. It's our faith that teaches us. Jesus on the cross, Father, forgive me. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Or the prayer we say, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So keep the Lord at the center. And you need a lot of patience and tolerance and forgiveness in marriage. Really. See, if you're not able to overlook a lot of stuff, it won't work. You know what I mean? So, does that make sense? Okay. All right, I think it's almost time for you.
Last question, if anyone has
Or
one.
anybody, it's okay. Okay, if you have no questions, I'll just say a couple of jokes for the road, okay? So there was a guy who was not very assertive in his marriage, and so he went for special training, and then he came back, and when he came home, he stood at the doorway, raised his voice, and he said, "Hey woman, do you know who is in charge here from now on?" She said, "Who?" He said, "Me." She said, "We shall see." And then he walked in the door and he said, "For starters, you're going to draw me a bubble bath. And as I step out of the bath, you will have a glass of champagne ready." She said, "Oh, really?" And then he said, "You're going to lay out my favorite suit and tie because I'm going for a night on the town with my buddies." She said, "Oh, really?" And then he said, "Do you know who is going to comb my hair and adjust my tie?" She said, "Yes, the funeral director." Okay. I've said a lot of jokes making fun of the men, but I'll tell you why I do that. See, whenever I tell jokes, that make fun of the men, there's a lot of laughter in the church. Because the men are laughing, the women are certainly laughing. But when I tell jokes about women, there's very little laughter in the church. Because the women are not laughing, and the men are afraid to laugh. It's true. So I'll tell one joke that makes fun of the women. So there was a guy who lived in California who liked to go to Hawaii every year, but after September 11th, he said he was not going to fly. So he prayed and prayed, and the Lord appeared, and the Lord said, what do you want? He said, Lord, I'd like to go to Hawaii, but I don't want to fly. The Lord said, then you can't get there unless you take a boat. No, Lord, I want to drive my convertible over. Yeah, but there is no bridge. And the man said, exactly. How about building a bridge for me from California to Hawaii? The Lord said, that's too complicated. It's the Pacific Ocean. The engineering is too much, okay? Ask for something simpler. The guy said, Lord, can I understand my wife? And the Lord said, now about that bridge, you want 6 lanes or 8? Okay, it was really nice being with you. Have a good night. We will hopefully see you again.
Thank you, Brother Britto, so much for being here and launching our Shot Theology season. I can't imagine a better speaker that we could have had for this inaugural event. So one more round of applause. So yes, we will be having the Shot Theology every month for the rest of the year. Our next speaker will be Father Joshua, and he'll be speaking next October 29th. So you still have plenty of time to celebrate Halloween on the 30th and 31st. You guys can be here on the 29th. His talk will be Beauty as Evangelization, how God is winning the Whole Foods generation. Millennials will settle for nothing less than authenticity. They are seeking wholeness. Whatever happens, when they encounter Catholic liturgy, they realize as it speaks to them to their 5 senses and answers the deepest desires of the human heart. In this talk, hear how all true hipsters become Catholic and learn how to use beauty and art to draw today's generation of Christ. So look out for that on the Lister and on the Facebook YAC Facebook group. And we look forward to seeing you guys next month.